The worst interview. Sophie woke up and opened her eyes. She felt a little chill on her face. She had only $12.47 in her bank account. She had almost no food in her fridge. She had a job interview at 9:30 a.m. that might change her life. She wanted to make a perfect impression. She planned to wake up early, take a nice warm shower, and dress in a professional outfit. She also planned to eat a quick breakfast. Then, she would arrive on time and surprise the interviewer with her confidence. But life had a different plan for her. She reached for her phone on the bedside table to check the time. She accidentally swung her arm too wide. The phone flew off the table and hit the floor. She heard a small crack. Then the screen went dark and stayed dark. She swallowed hard. Her phone was her main alarm. But she remembered her backup, a little digital clock. She turned to look at the clock. Her heart stopped for a second. 8:43 a.m. Her brain refused to process the numbers. That couldn't be right. She blinked. Still 8:43. Then, like a slow-motion horror movie, realization hit her. She had set the alarm for 7 p.m., not 7 a.m. No, 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 no! She gasped. Her mind raced. 47 minutes? How was she supposed to shower, dress, and get to the interview in 47 minutes? She jumped out of bed, heart pounding. She told herself to stay calm. She still had a little time. She tried to move quickly, but she also wanted to avoid mistakes. She did not realize that this was only the first problem of the day. Sophie rushed into the bathroom. She turned on the shower. Cold water splashed her face. She yelped at the icy shock. She struggled with the handle. Finally, some warm water arrived. She hurried to wash her hair and rinse her body. The water became very hot. She jumped back and almost slipped. She grabbed a towel, wrapped it around herself, and ran into her bedroom. She had no time to blow-dry her hair completely. She patted it with a towel. Her hair stayed damp, but she ignored it. She stood in front of the mirror with her makeup bag. She did not have time for perfect beauty, but she wanted to look professional. She dabbed on some foundation quickly. She added some light blush on her cheeks. Then she took her eyeliner. She tried to draw a steady line. Her hand felt shaky, so she took a deep breath. She made one smooth stroke. It looked perfect. She felt proud for a second. Suddenly, her nose tickled. She sniffed, trying to hold it in, but achoo! The force of her sneeze nearly shook the mirror off the table. When she opened her eyes, she froze. Her eyeliner, once a perfect stroke, now shot across her face like an escaped snake. She had turned into a warrior, or a very bad comic book villain. She grabbed a cotton pad to wipe away the mistake. She wiped too hard. Her eyeliner smeared into a big black cloud around her eye. She tried to fix it with more foundation. It became a dark gray mess. She tried again, but the gray spread further. She began to look like a panda. She cursed under her breath. She had very little time left. She rubbed away as much as she could. In the end, she left a faint shadow. She whispered, "Okay. It's not perfect, but it will do." She breathed in. She tried to smile at her reflection. She reminded herself to act confident, no matter what. Sophie opened her closet. She searched for her favorite white blouse. That blouse always helped her feel professional. She found it, but she saw a huge brown coffee stain on it. She remembered that she spilled coffee last time she wore it. She forgot to clean it properly. It was too late now. She could not wear that white blouse. She glanced at her black blazer. That jacket usually covered her blouse. She hoped the stain might be hidden. She decided to take a risk. She slipped on the white blouse. She buttoned it up and then put on the black blazer. The moment she put on the blazer, something felt off. She sniffed once. Then again. Her face twisted in horror. The blazer reeked, not of perfume, not of laundry detergent, but of something far worse. No way. She turned slowly and locked eyes with Mr. Whiskers. The cat, lying on the bed, licked his paw, looking smug. "You did not just use my blazer as a toilet," she whispered. Mr. Whiskers blinked, completely unbothered. She had no time to wash the jacket. She tore it off and tossed it to the side. She looked for a backup outfit. She found a simple blue sweater and black pants. "This is not perfect, but it's better than smelling like cat pee," she muttered. She threw on the sweater and pants. She zipped them up. She grabbed her bag and headed for the door. She took one step outside and stepped into a puddle of water. Now her shoes were soaked. She closed her eyes and exhaled slowly. "Okay. I can handle this." She forced herself to keep going. She started running to the subway station, ignoring the squishing sound in her shoes. Sophie dashed into the station. She swiped her Metro card and tried to hurry through the turnstile. A huge crowd was inside the station. She pushed her way onto the train just as the doors slid closed. The train was packed with morning commuters. People stood shoulder to shoulder. She lifted her right arm to grab the handrail. Her left hand clutched her folder of documents. She was stuck. Her right arm could not come down. Her left arm was trapped by someone's huge backpack. She felt like a statue. She tried to smile, but her face showed panic. She looked around. Everyone else seemed half asleep or busy with phones. She heard the train rattling through tunnels. After a few stops, an older woman looked at her with curiosity. "Are you trying to exercise your arm, dear?" the woman asked gently. Sophie gave a nervous laugh. "Not exactly. I can't move in this crowd." The woman nodded with sympathy. She tried to shift, but there was no space. Sophie stayed locked in that position for 5 stops. By the time she reached her station, her arm felt numb. She wiggled and pushed her way toward the door. She barely managed to escape before the doors shut again. She took a gulp of fresh air on the platform. She checked her watch. She was running late. She climbed the stairs to the street. She decided to call a rideshare. She waved down an Uber. An old man named Bob was her driver. He looked kind and wore a thick pair of glasses. Sophie slid into the back seat. She looked at the time again and saw that it was already 9:15 a.m. "Hello, sir," she said. "I'm in a hurry. I have a job interview at 9:30. Bob nodded calmly. "No problem, young lady," he said. Then he started driving at about 20 miles per hour. It felt slower than most people walk. Sophie watched pedestrians crossing streets. Some of them walked faster than Bob drove. She clenched her teeth but tried to remain polite. She did not want to appear rude. She noticed the traffic light turning yellow. She prayed he would continue through. Bob gently braked and stopped. They sat there, waiting for the next green light. She tapped her foot. She glanced at her watch every few seconds. Time seemed to race while the car crawled. Her heart pounded harder. Finally, Bob reached the building. It was 9:45 a.m. Sophie said a quick thanks and jumped out. She almost forgot to close the car door behind her. She ran across the sidewalk. She dashed into the building's lobby. Her hair was messy and damp. Her sweater was slightly wrinkled. She clutched her folder tightly. She told herself to stay calm and look professional. She wanted to breathe, but she had no time. She stepped up to the front desk. A friendly receptionist smiled at Sophie. Sophie introduced herself. She said she was here for the interview. She tried to steady her breathing. The receptionist's eyes flickered. She reached into a drawer and took out a small mirror. She handed it to Sophie. "There is a tiny spot on your teeth," she said kindly. Sophie's face turned red instantly. She took the mirror and looked. Oh no! Her lipstick had smudged all over her teeth. It looked like she had just bitten into raw meat. She rubbed it away with a tissue. She put on a shaky smile. "Thank you," she managed to say. The receptionist nodded. Then she told Sophie to go to the conference room. She mentioned the interviewer would join her soon. Sophie's legs felt wobbly. She walked down the hallway in her damp shoes. They made a squeaking sound. It was like a small duck quacking with every step. She felt everyone's eyes on her. She quietly slipped into the conference room. She tried to straighten her clothes and fix her hair. She could hear her heart pounding in her chest. She thought, "I still have a chance. I must stay positive." She waited in the quiet room, preparing her mind for the questions. She recalled the answers she had practiced the night before. She told herself, "It's okay. I'll do my best." The door opened. Not one person walked in but four. Sophie's eyes widened. She tried to force a smile. Karen looked strict and wore a sharp suit. Her gaze was intense, like she could read minds. Jeff, the HR person, looked tired. He pushed his glasses up his nose. Monica, from finance, clutched a folder of spreadsheets. She seemed to be mentally calculating something at every moment. Tom wore a t-shirt that said, "Happy Friday," but it was only Tuesday. Sophie felt an instant wave of panic. She expected to see one interviewer, not four. She forced a bigger smile and stood up. She greeted them, one by one. Karen spoke first in a firm voice. "Hello, Sophie. We appreciate your punctuality, though you seem a bit late." Sophie's face twitched. She started to apologize, but Karen continued. "Let's begin with a simple question," Karen said. "Tell us a little about yourself." Sophie had prepared for this question many times. She opened her mouth. Suddenly, her brain went blank. She said, "I'm Sophie. I am a person who really exists." All four interviewers paused. They exchanged confused looks. Jeff whispered, "Did she say she exists?" Sophie's cheeks burned. She tried to laugh lightly. "Yes, I exist. I mean, I am a dedicated and motivated individual." Karen narrowed her eyes. "All right, please continue." Sophie felt sweat forming on her forehead. Her grand introduction was ruined. She had to salvage this. She swallowed and decided to push forward. Karen leaned forward. "Tell us about a time you solved a difficult problem." Sophie's brain scrambled. Think. Something smart. Something impressive. Then, a memory popped up. Yes. That time she locked herself out of her apartment. "Well," she began, "I once got locked out of my apartment. But I found a solution." Karen nodded, waiting. I Googled how to open the door with a credit card," Sophie continued. She explained how she used the card to pop the lock. She proudly said she learned this trick quickly. She expected the interviewers to be amazed by her creativity. Instead, they all looked alarmed. Monica's mouth dropped open. Jeff raised both eyebrows. Karen cleared her throat. "So, you just told us that you can break into a locked door?" Sophie stammered. "Oh no, not exactly. It was my own apartment. I was desperate. It was legal for me to enter." Tom coughed, trying not to laugh. Karen's eyes narrowed again. "You do understand this sounds a bit suspicious?" she asked. Sophie felt her palms sweat. "I promise I'm not a thief," she said quickly. "I just solved my own problem." Monica scribbled something on her notepad. Sophie imagined it said, "Potential criminal?" Sophie's stomach twisted. She wished she had chosen a different story. Karen changed the topic. "Sophie, what unique skills can you bring to our team?" Sophie's mind was blank. She worried about saying something foolish. She took a quick breath and remembered she had moved a heavy couch last week. She explained that she carried a large sofa from her living room to her balcony. She did it alone, without help. Tom leaned forward, looking curious. "You moved a 2-meter sofa by yourself?" Sophie nodded, feeling a bit proud. "Yes, it was around 2 meters long." Jeff adjusted his glasses. "How tall are you?" Sophie said. "About 162 centimeters." Monica looked confused. "How did you manage to lift something bigger than you?" Sophie shrugged nervously. I guess I just used all my strength. Silence fell over the room. The interviewers looked at each other. They seemed to suspect she was hiding superhuman powers. Karen pursed her lips. All right, she said slowly. Thank you for that interesting example. Sophie felt more awkward than ever. She sensed that the entire interview was spiraling out of control. She wanted to apologize or run away. But she stayed put, fighting for a chance at this job. Sophie left the office that day feeling defeated. She was sure she looked foolish. She had arrived late, smelled like cold subway air, and admitted she could pick a lock. She also sounded strange when she described herself. She went home and collapsed on her couch. She stared at the ceiling, thinking about how her life would be if she failed to get a job. She worried about her tiny bank account and her almost empty fridge. She felt tears welling up but tried to stay strong. The next morning, she got a phone call from an unknown number. She answered with a tired voice. Hello? A familiar voice spoke. It was Karen. Sophie, she said, we have made a decision. We want you to join our team. Sophie was sure she misheard. Pardon? You mean you want to hire me? Karen's tone was warmer now. Yes. We believe you have interesting qualities. You are creative, and you find solutions in unusual ways. Also, we liked your courage. Sophie sat up, her heart racing. She wanted to confirm. You're sure? Karen laughed softly. Yes, we are sure. The entire team voted to offer you the position. Even Tom was impressed that you could move a large sofa by yourself. We think you have grit. We need that in our company. Sophie felt a wave of relief. Tears of joy stung her eyes. She had expected a rejection, but now she had a new beginning. She thanked Karen repeatedly. She promised to do her best. Karen simply said, "See you on Monday," and hung up. Sophie put down her phone and hugged Mr. Whiskers, who was napping next to her. She felt a surge of hope. Her disastrous interview was not a failure. It was the start of something new. She looked at her reflection in the window. Her makeup was smudged, and her hair was messy. She did not look like a polished executive. But she felt strong and ready. She grinned, thinking about the crazy events of the day before. Somehow, those weird mistakes had made her stand out. She laughed at the memory of the old Uber driver, Bob. She pictured the 4 interviewers' shocked expressions. It was the most ridiculous interview of her life. Yet it ended in success. Sometimes, life takes a surprising path.